Okay. So when I see this written here, of course, uh, that is feeling that center of the hub is the moment of Satori. Precisely. Of course, by your current conceptualization ability and most of the concepts and ideas we discussed in our sessions, they were all either about the rim or about the spokes or about the hub. But they are all pointing to that center of the hub. That is that moment of Satori. That's why I said, with the original mind, you will not know anything. Do not try to know it. Do not try to sense it. Do not try to feel it. Because even if you feel a tint of that, that's a part of the hub. I said, if you're feeling a tint, if you're feeling that you're almost close to that original mind, you're on the hub. If it's a great lot of majorities of people in the world are on the ground, they are not even on the wheel. Some people are on the rim, some are maybe on the various parts of the spokes, some are closer to the hub, some may have understanding about how the spokes are being fixed onto the hub, some may be beating around the bush of the hub. And quite possibly by normal distribution, some of them have tasted the emptiness or the center of the hub also. And I envisage some moment for you also. At one point of time, it will definitely happen to you. No doubt about that. But don't bother about it. Do not anticipate it. Do not keep any intentionality about it. Just I said that. When you get it, you will remember what I said today. That's all. Anyway, why I am so sure is my languages are all about the rim and the spokes and the hub. So at the time of listening to me, the girl is decided to marry the person. But within 3 months, she changes her mind. Because I say things in such a configuration that none of them is straightly connected to her choice. But there are certain hidden elements in what I tell her, which will gradually work and reach the emptiness of the decision. That means she will cancel the decision. Similarly, this was a kind of an inspiring language I met you. But the point here is, how come Veena wrote this? Why didn't say the referent mind is the hub of the self? Anyway, that's all interesting stuff. We can reflect upon. Let her reflect upon that. So anyway, a statement is made here, but let's say mind is the center of the hub. Rather, we have to correct it. Actually, it is actually the original mind which is the center of the hub. In a way, mind also in many sense, okay? In the sense that, as I said before, we just cannot locate precisely where it is. In every attempt to locate, we get across some mindsets and some ideas. Like the Zen statement says, it is like searching the fugitive by beating the drum. Every time you have to beat a drum. Rather, we have to use a knowledge. Parables are a mild way to break that spokes and the hub of the wheel for perception. And the other day I told you about the Zen cones. Zen cones are precisely to break all the hub and the spokes and the wheel winner so that the center get automatically exposed. What is a cone? I told you the other day. What is a cone? Listen. It's a con. It is impossible. So, by the time the inspired disciple is trying to force his or her attention to the visual of one's hand clapping and to somehow locate the sound of the forest of whatever, sound of one hand clapping, there will come a moment where the hub and the spokes of the wheel, entire wheel breaks down and suddenly you get an exposure, like a photographic exposure of the center of the hub. All right, yeah. Second point, Meenakshi, written here is, the mind is linkage to the body, intelligence, intellect and spirit, okay, all right. The influence of the body depends on its external environment, the health condition of the internal organs, the type of food intake, how it is maintained, etc. All right, all right. This we discussed a little bit during our discussions on the body process also. Yes. This was the centerpiece of the central theory behind Plato's statement that the sound mind in a sound body. But unfortunately, he used the word sound, That's the original English translation of whatever he said. It's very likely that the translation into sound, whatever was the original language, translation into sound may be very accurate. So, when we discuss about referent, concept sense of a word, referent of a word, referent reality of a word, and interpreting that referent reality, and reconceptualizing the referent reality, and so on and so forth, what is the so-called soundness of the body itself? Health of the body, okay, we can have little more extent of comprehension because of available information. Maybe to an extent, integrity of body process, okay, little more clear maybe to people who are informed about the various systems of the body.
2045.
None of these words, sound of the body. Sound the body. Yeah, sound of the body also. A sound body, sound of that body is the mind. In fact, the philosophy of Ayurveda, especially Charagan, there's a huge chapter on what you call daily discipline, dinacharya. What time to get up, what time to take the bath, what time to take the breakfast, what should be the breakfast, which way one should sit, which way one should walk, which way one should sleep, all the details are good. Even how to brush your teeth is written. Perhaps that would be at least a little bit followed in the ancient Gurukulas of India, quite possibly. All right, agreed. But then when we look at the great philosophers and creative geniuses in the history of the world, most of them did not have a sound body. Forget about sound body. Most of them had illnesses, serious illnesses, actual illnesses. There are books on that. Most of them were of weak body, really just the opposite. Really weak body, unhealthy body. Some of the great, I don't remember the names. I told you, I analyzed the biography of about 82 so-called 80 people. Some of them had serious tuberculosis, constipation, sleeplessness, what all, what not. Even J. Krishnamurti, according to me, one of the real, true mystics of India. True mystic. True in the sense that he did not want even to become the head of the organization. I told you the entire Theosophical Society formed by Annie Besant and Lawrence Leadbeater, they with their very, very hard work created a global network, continuously projecting J. Krishnamurti as the world leader. That is the concept they used in English language, world leader. And just like that, he denied it. That is his true, that is the evidence that he was really a true mystic. And such a true mystic, he suffered very serious, extremely serious, unexplained kind of stomach pain for about 18, 19 years. With a serious stomach pain, he would sort of press his entire stomach with the entire weight of the body on some pointed surface of the chair or the cot. Especially stomach disorder is very attention claiming. Unlike tuberculosis or something else, that would not be felt all the time by the person. The stomach pain will be very clearly felt. So, what about sound body? Sound mind and sound body? So that shows, of course, I am not disputing what Plato said. There is definitely sound mind is possible by sound body. But what is soundness? The referent of soundness is something very different which Plato meant. That's why he used the concept of sound. But he is not correct, no doubt about that. The will, there is the will, much greater will, much greater level of inspiration. What special soundness of the body which Edmund Hillary had, which others did not have? Is the power of inspiration. So, of course, try for a good body, have a controlled diet. Of course, body is very important, especially towards the end of your journey. At that time, it's very important. Body is very important. So, take care of your body, eat properly, give rest properly, do some yoga, precisely some Surya Namaskaram or something like that, especially those who are sitting most of the time. Or do some deep breaths. Forget about pranayama. Some 5 to 10 minutes of deep breathing, then the entire skeleton becomes active. And try to learn to breathe through the entire body. Actually, the entire body is expanding a little bit when you take the inspiration, intake of air. So try to intake air with the whole body relaxed, then the whole body, actually the whole body is taking the air. There should be an aperture for that. The whole body in its totality cannot take the air. So there must be a passageway for air. The nostrils and lungs are that only. But that air is taken in by the entire cooperation of the whole body only. The mechanical Western science explains that just the lungs are working. No. So do that. Yeah. What is the next point?
The body is an instrument or an external manifestation by which the mind is expressed.
Oh.
Again, we covered that.
This all ultimate principles you are talking about actually. This is pure Veda. It is a Vedic expression, Vedic statement that the universe is an expression of the mind of the God. So the body is the expression of the mind, of course. Like the other day, it is true. Like this is what every one of you is wonderful. Like Ramesh said, goose flesh. Like Parvati had a vow. Okay. Entire body is operating behind the mind. That's why you have this lie detector, which we have mentioned even before. Just attach some electrodes on, just on your palm. Sorry, not on palm, just on the wrist of your hand, and you can see in the oscilloscope, I mean the TV screen. Every moment there are different vibrations, which the science name of alpha, beta, delta, lambda, whatever. So even the skin level, the energy field, so the so-called mind, your thought process, your emotions are very faithfully reflected. Yes.
So
All right.
all
Yeah.
illnesses begin in the mind and manifest in the body. Body and mind are the two sides of the same coin.
Of course, yes, true.
So intelligence, intellect, and spirit are the subtle linkages, whereas body is the gross linkage. So all the impacts on the mind by the intelligence and intellect is reflected in the body by its responses, behaviors, and actions.
Once again.
Because body is something which we have direct contact, direct access. Whereas intelligence, and spirit are subtle linkages.
Okay.
So all the impacts, I use the word impacts because I put it in red because I am not sure of the correct word when I wrote that. So all the
No,
impacts.
impact is correct. Impressions are
Okay.
also correct.
Okay. On the
Impression.
mind.
Why could you couldn't get that impressions? We have used it 100 times.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
I found something funny, so I put it in a different color.
Okay. All right.
So all the impressions on the mind by the intelligence and intellect is reflected in the body by its responses, behaviors, and actions.
That needs some explanation. That is very clear to me. But let us not go into that. Yeah. You are now bringing in how intellect is connected with the mind, of course.
Yeah. So
That's
time
how.
zero and time now. So body originally the spirit part actually I do not know because I have no access to the spirit part.
Wait.
Yeah.
Spirit. When you say you have no access to spirit, you only just now said you do not have access to mind, intellect, intelligence also. So,
Yeah.
spirit, do not get misled by the image of spirit. Spirit means what? Something that is invisible but powerful. Yeah, spirit meaning here that energy field, Veena. Right now, if you close your eyes, what you feel in the internal side of the body is the spirit. Is the spirit, is that an energy field. You don't feel the air bones. You do not feel the heart per se. You do not feel the lungs per se. You do not feel your buttocks or thighs or what you call legs or face per se. Per se meaning you do not know how it really feels in the sense that you get only feeling of that. That feeling is possible because of that energy spread across the entire assemblages of the body cells. That is called spirit. Like everything has its focus point, spirit too has a focus point, a locus of control. That we can physically think of as the total central nervous system, or like the Indian perspectives talk about the various chakras of the body. Hmm? They are all just names of various domains or various orbits of that spirit only. They are all knowledges which you should not necessarily depend upon, because those kind of knowledges there are plenty, and people reading it they do not benefit anything out of that. It's all just high level theorizations or conceptualizations. No? By talking about Anahata Chakra or Ajna Chakra and getting the details of that, okay, it's a general knowledge, no doubt about that. But I would say that much could be a block also. They are all about the spokes and the hub and the wheel of this entity. None of that is the so-called thing referred to by them. Originally, it's very simple. That we can deduce from what they say also. Okay, you are talking mind. This is okay. This is what I also mentioned. Mind is the central element here. That's what you say, right? Right,
Yeah,
Veena? Yeah, all
yeah.
right, of course. Yeah. That even before seeing this, I also mentioned this. Mind is because mind is primary and the mind has primacy. Because that is the first one which was triggered. That is the first one to which parents responded to. So mind gets the supreme importance because of that. In fact, how many parents respond to the thought process of the child? Very rarely. To what extent the mother makes a statement, this is in which way mother gives feedback to the child about its attention power, about its power of thinking, about its power of observation. Now, Ashwati is a young mother. See that you direct the attention of the child to what it does. That's enough. Of course, it may not understand your language, but try to give feedback on its power of attention whenever it happens, when it makes an observation, when it happens, okay, when it makes a good statement. I don't know, your child is very little baby, but I know you understood what I said. That's all. Do it. That is the greatest contribution. Your child is your greatest trainee. So, of course, by the way, Veena has specified the difference between time zero and time now by the color, right?
Yeah.
Very good. And in that also, you have not changed the color of the spirit. Why?
Because firstly, because I have the feeling that it is unchanging. I don't know whether I'm right.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah, yeah,
feeling.
yeah. Wait. What do you think?
Meaning, I didn't understand.
What do you think? Whether it changes or why you are so unsure?
Because I do
No, no.
not know.
Then why did you put it as the same? But
I
you
just,
can know. You
yeah.
can know, Veena. Do not think. This is again a theory.
I,
There is no input straight away going to the spirit, to our available evidences. Food is given to the body, body
yeah.
is dressed up, body is put to sleep, body is taken care of, etc., etc., etc. Your mind is, of course, almost all inputs are given to the mind. Then intelligence people learn a lot of things. They understand about the world, the environment, the society, the country. Then all kinds of general knowledges are there. Then the intellect, okay,
It's
whether
21
trained or not,
hours.
everybody develops little bit of power of observation by normal chances, chance development. So everyone is capable of making some observations, conceptualizations, capable of cognition, perception, thinking, analysis, conceptualization, imagination, visualization. Everybody is more or less capable here and there, a little bit here, a little bit there, and all that. Normal distribution. But what is the input given to the spirits? And mind you, Veena, the world understands the spirits. Every human being is able to understand something there, may not be naming it as a spirit. Evidenced by the easily sold commodity called religion. They may use different words, soul, Atman, whatever. So, so-called religion is all about the spirit only. Not in our sense of the spirit, but understanding something other than the body, mind, intelligence, intellect, etc. You see, you take a 3-year-old child to a space and you stand your eyes closed and do some prayers, ask the child to fold its hands to some unknown thing, it will do it. Very interesting. You don't have to tell anything. That is why these religions are all successful, Veena. Yeah. Because everyone is has a feel, some intuitive feeling that there is something other than all these things.
Yeah.
Actually, that is the original center of the hub only. But a normal human perception, it is not easy to conceptualize all these things for people. It is a normal distribution. Always be aware of normal distribution in your discourse with people. That's a fundamental program of your mind. That should be. Like you're understanding that love is the intentionality of the original mind. You must be always aware of the normal distribution principle. Yeah.
Sir, I have a doubt.
Yeah.
Sir, is the spirit the intentionality of the wheel to rotate?
Wait. I am at once again. Yeah. Vinay. Yeah. Hold it. Once again. Wheel is the sorry.
Is the spirit
Hmm.
the intentionality of the wheel to rotate?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That is the expression of the spirit, yes. That is, if the wheel will do something, it will be rotating. So, it is the intentionality of the spirit. It is the intentionality of that centerness of the hub. That's what you meant, right? Yeah, very true, very good.
So is that the original mind, the spirit?
No. She said the spirit is a property of the original mind, and that spirit was because of the intention. She said because of the intentionality of the spirit, the wheel is ready to rotate. That's what she said.
So the will is a subcomponent.
Ashwini, write it down, Ashwini. Once again, who said that? What?
Yeah. So I'm trying to see where the will fits in here. The will is part of the spirit, sir.
Definitely. Will takes its drive energy from that spirit only. To this question, when you analyze deeply what there's a dialogue, there's a book called The Dialogue by Plato. There's a dialogue between Plato and Socrates. In that, he is coming to almost the same thing which you said now. Yeah. And there is another philosopher called Arthur Schopenhauer. Schopenhauer, Schoppenhauer, something like that. Arthur Schopenhauer. He also belonged to the tradition of Plato, Aristotle, etc. But he's a little more modern, and I think he died some 100 years back or so. Arthur Schopenhauer believed that the entire world, the way you see, is a manifestation of the will. And he said the entire universe is nothing but a manifestation of the will of the so-called supreme force. Of course, none of the philosophers ever used the word God. No doubt about that. So, that supreme force. Because when they look deeply into the variations of varied manifestations that comprise the world, the universe, they have to account, they have to make some interpretation, Ramesh. I mean, every one of you also. I want every one of you to become a philosopher, guide, and a friend. Rather, every one of you have to become a philosopher on your own accord. Of course, you can know also about the philosophy of Socrates or Plato or Patanjali or Buddha or also. Because when you see the rotation of the wheel, you have to say something. There must be something definitely that drives this rotation. So that is the intentionality of the spirit which Ashwini is almost locating now. And will is that which a person's self is somehow able to access by varied experiences in life, by which he or she He is determined to sit even late night, even the body is tired, if there is illnesses or no food or whatever, they are ready. When there is danger in front, death in front, Edmund Hillary is again making the next step. For what? What drives him? Obviously not a Nobel Prize. Obviously nobody's anything. Nowadays people do a lot of things to get into the Guinness book and things like that. Or like Arthur Schopenhauer said, why the trees? Why the tree is growing? Of course, all these things are there. Why the tree is there? So the answer is only that will of, and finally Arthur Schopenhauer said that there is just will and will only, but it's very difficult for people to comprehend, because there is again the theory that there should be something which is carrying the will also. Then again we will have the question, what is carrying that something? Similarly, it would be rather difficult to conceive the center point of the hub of the wheel. Is it a center of the hub wheel? Is that emptiness is a part of the wheel, but is not a part of the wheel also? There is a similar statement also. In the same page of the book Tao Te Ching, the next verse after 30 spouses, I don't remember it exactly, four walls are constructed, windows and doors are cut to make the house, but the use of the house depends upon that space which is empty. Something like that. So that is the mystery. That is what the Tao could capture. When your will is able to capture that emptiness, by that time you are out in the space. You are no more bound by the walls. You are no more bound by the hub and the spokes. Though you may still belong to the hub and the spokes, Meenakshi. There could be a possible, probable underlying program, an underlying theory in the mind that when you become aware, when you feel the center of the hub of the entity that you are, you may go out of the world. No. Some of the well-known people lived like they're out of the world, and unfortunately, I don't think they ever said that that is the ideal life. They took that as, let us say, their career or their profession to go around and talk about that. Therefore, they adopted a certain dress pattern and certain living pattern. That's all. Modern Zen masters in the USA, Canada, and England and France, they're all living in ultimate luxury. You might have heard about Osho. Almost not even the Illuminati, so-called richest people in the world, not even them lived like Osho. Towards the end of his time in Oregon in US, he had 76 Rolls-Royce cars and diamonds and whatnot. And he talked differently. But some of the images like that of Ramana Maharshi, what you call, there are so many other modern gurus, Meher Baba, then what, Nisargadatta Maharaj, then somebody called Papaji, a lot of people. I mean, well-meaning people. I'm not talking about the modern campaigned gurus. Even they live a different life, dress in a very funny way, and all that. So always At those moments of confusion or when you are faced with such a question from the audience in the future, you always depend upon the you and also the images of the Zen masters. They lived in a place, the people called it monastery. That was actually their house. At that time in ancient Japan, in the provinces, there were a lot of space. They had their cows. That was their profession and they talked about that, that's all. So it is possible that there's a huge hub, very strong hub inside your mind which is blocking you to really look at you as a person very close to the nothingness of the hub of your entity. You have understood it. If you have understood it, that means you see that. Right now, what was the dialogue of Asadi? She had a moment of glimpse of that. Otherwise, she cannot make that statement. And she is simply sitting there only. We can all see her simply sitting there and blink her eyes. Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the analysis of the mind involves which aspect of the mind that is being analyzed, whether it is location, whether it's origin, whether it's the content, whether it's the functioning or the processes involved in it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
becoming
definitely. So, therefore, it is kind of a double-edged sword.
Yes.
So, that's what I said. You are doing an exercise in creative analysis, and that you do precisely on that which is doing the analysis. That's what you say, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
Yeah.
becoming blurred, sir. The image is becoming blurred.
Yeah. Right. Right.
I can't see.
You cannot see.
No.
You cannot see the PowerPoint,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
No.
it's maybe because of the strength of the internet connection. So
Okay. Yeah, I too can see the slide, but the alphabets are all blurred.
same here as well now.
I will try
Yeah.
to make the second point a little bigger. Usually the thing or entity. Can you see now?
Yeah. Usually the thing or entity, etc., that is being analyzed is by an external agent.
Yeah.
Here, the analysis of the concept mind has to be done by the very mind itself.
Yeah.
So, like the eyes that tries to see itself.
Yeah. Correct. Correct. But
Uh,
that eyes trying to see itself is a metaphor, but that is not even 30% correlated to this. Here, there is a movement of time. Time one, the analysis process. Time two, the observed mind. That varying, the shift in gears is possible. You know, whereas it is eyes are physically constant. Whereas mind is an ongoing process. Time one, let us say, you are trying to look at what are the processes in the mind. Then that, according to you, that itself become a process of the mind. All right? That you observe. That you could observe. Then there is the shifting into the process of the mind. Again, shifting back to the observer. In other words, you can be the observer in the case of mind.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That making observations is possible, but to feel the mind, only an external agent is possible. Mind cannot sense itself, like a physical eyes cannot sense itself.
no.
Similarly, the mind cannot sense itself. That is true. But here you are doing an analysis. So the mind, you are familiar with your mind for the last 30 years, last 20 years, last 10 years. You know various events you have undergone. You have various memories, various estimates of the way you respond to things. These are the aspects of your mind that you can recollect. You know?
Yeah.
But what you have written here is very correct in the sense of exactly differentiating the location, the origin, the context, etc. of the mind. That only something else can do, no doubt. But here that is not the purpose. That is a very complex purpose. That is not required because you cannot cover the entire totality of the mind at this one point of time. You may need that much of time duration. Because after one thought, then another thought is going on coming. Much more easier to locate the original mind without any thoughts. Because going on through the thoughts, it is, to locate the original mind, you will go traveling only. You will never reach the destination. But you make a cut like the Gordian knot of Alexander the Great. You just cut across, then there's a possibility of seeing the center point of the hub of the mind. If you travel through the spokes and the hub of the rim and all that, you go on moving here and there. But anyway, for this exercise of writing theory about the mind, you are supposed to write only about whatever you identify as your nature of mind. Not at this level, Veena. All right. Then the next point. Yeah, here they come. Yeah. Like the eyes that tries to, unlike an external object, like a pen nurses, of course, you cannot do it. You cannot do it. All right. Next point. Yeah. Next is comparing the mind to the flowing of a river from the source. Actually, here you can do some reconceptualization. If you do a reconceptualization of this sentence, what it will be?
Comparing the origin of the mind. Comparing the flowing of a river to the origin of the mind from its source.
Yeah. So do it. So what would you do with the sentence?
I don't understand.
Sir,
Come on. Yeah.
this is a corollary. Like you can trace a river back to its origin from where you encounter it, we can also trace the mind back and arrive at the center. It's not a reconceptualization, but a thought.
So if he is telling that mind is like the flow of a river from its source, what is the point of specifying the part from its source?
Because it has to originate somewhere.
That means you are projecting a possibility that there is a force for the mind itself.
Yes.
It is the original mind, that original template, that empty slate. Yeah.
Yes.
But there is a problem in this metaphor. Can you say what is that? Like I told the other day to Tintin, your statement is accurate, but there is a loophole in that. What is that? Comparing to the mind. A river flowing its source.
The direction of the flow
Cannot be completely compared. Comparison perfectly okay, but I said it cannot be completely compared. Perhaps cannot be even compared in a way. Only that flow is comparable. Why? What is that direction?
The source is not empty.
What?
Or For the river, the source is not an emptiness.
For example, yeah, one.
The river has different tributaries, making it.
Yeah, 2, 3.
Ice transforms into water here.
No, that's applying your terminology. Okay, all right, accepted. All right. That is, no, we are bringing in a point which are only remotely relevant. Forget about that. Water is there, whether ice melt or whatever it is. The point of attention here is the source aspect, flowing and the source aspect. Yeah. But no doubt, what you said also is sourceable. In a common way, what you said is acceptable to me, but we don't follow the common way. We go a little deeper level. Always.
It is not clear in the statement.
Your common responses will not be tolerated anymore. All right, come on. Yeah, yes, Nitya.
Hello, Sanu here.
Yes.
So it is not clear from the statement here whether the mind is the origin or the flowing river.
Okay, all right. Of course, 4, 5.
So,
Yes.
Vinay here.
Yeah.
So, if there is a source, there must be a destination also.
That's okay.
And
That point is a good point, Vinay. Like a technical point out. That is not relevant here. Now you are
but
going beyond the boundaries of our discussion. Yeah.
Master, can you try?
No, wait, Vinay, you have something.
yeah, but so my point is,
Yeah. What is the point?
we cannot attribute a source, a specific source to an original mind, because the mind itself is the source.
Okay, all right. Okay.
That's it, sir.
Okay, all right. Okay, good. 6.
Can I try?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, so I think from this conceptualization, what was meant was that the original mind is the source and the mind, the river that's flowing from it. So this comparison may be.
Wait. Once again.
My premise is this. In this
Don't
example.
premise, you have to interpret this. Your interpreting this is correct. Okay.
Okay, so my interpretation here is the source of the river is the original mind, and the mind, the river that flows down from the source. Now, the problem with that comparison is that one can cut across the mind to go back to the original mind, but that does not happen in the case of a river. A river never flows back to its source, but only flows away from it.
Okay, all right. Okay, good point. 7, 8.
Sir. Exactly, sir. That's why that Naveen here, sir.
Yeah.
Exactly. That is the point I want to add. Is mind does not necessarily have a source. Always have a source. Sometimes it has a source, and sometimes it flows just from the original. It means it's.
So you mean to say that the mind does not have a source at all, like the river has a source?
No, does not necessarily. Always have a source.
What? So how can there be a source once in a while and at other times no source?
Other times it can be a mind of no mind. It can have mind of no mind.
That no mind is the source which she is talking about. That's what we have already taught. Okay. So no mind is the source. That's what perhaps Veena assumes. That's what many people here also mentioned before. So you have some other point. I suppose when Naveen said that you are thinking about the various contents of the mind at a given point of time.
Yeah, yes.
And that is the point, but you did not say that properly. That means, Naveen says, let us say the photo, that part of the river, let us say, okay? that part of the river, like a mindset and its expression is considered, that part alone does not have a source.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay. Next point, 10.
Sir,
Yes.
I think the word flowing is the error in the comparison.
What is that?
Flowing, it is assuming a state of being of the mind. If it had been the mind is the river, then it would have been okay. But the mind is comparing the mind to the flowing of the river is assuming that the mind is in a state of movement.
All the time.
Yes.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, that is also not correct. It's okay. 11.
Sir, the river flows in one direction, whereas the mind can be in, it is a free flowing thing, it can be any direction.
All right. Okay, good. All right. Good. 12. Next point.
So when we compare the wheel, the source, the center of the wheel, that is the emptiness part of it. From where is the wheel? The purpose of the wheel is to rotate. So the center of the wheel, which is the emptiness, from where is it getting that energy for the wheel to rotate?
That energy is, if you go by the referent of the word energy, it is not giving an energy precisely. That's why we have the concept of intentionality. It is not action, but it is just a readiness to act. Like if it's a ball, if you touch it, if it does anything, it will roll. Otherwise, it won't roll. So that is called, this element is called intentionality. All right. Yeah. So what is the point here?
The source is empty.
Okay.
Yeah.
You are saying. Oh, I see. Oh, okay. You are saying the source of the mind is emptiness, and the source of a river there is a source. All right. Okay. All right. Good. Next. Anything else?
So I have
It's 21:30.
Yeah. Yeah. Come on. Beautiful. Correct. All right.
That's all.
All right. That's a very beautiful point, because flowing is a totally different process. That is something different. Whether it flows or not, you are really not sure. Anyway, so the water part is the thing which actually Veena means. That's obvious. We are not criticizing what Veena said. We are just trying our sharpness of attention to the details of the referent. Because now we are looking at the reference of the river vis-a-vis an idea what she said, which is very meaningful to anybody in the world. This statement can be shown with this photograph to anybody in the world. Every one of them will accept it. All right. Next. Anything else?
sir, I have a question. Okay, here, which one is mind? Is it the water or the land where the water is held or the water is flowing?
That is a next level interpretative analysis. We are not going to that. We are taking only the clues from this given FIR data. Something Tintin also mentioned. Let's not go. You are right, because without a land, without a terrain, this cannot go. And mind also, in order to flow, in order for the mindsets, in order for the contents to exist, there should be a terrain. That terrain is the original flow of original mind. Original mind, that energy field. So we can talk like that at a certain level. We can also talk that it is the ground is the overall consciousness. All right. So at a metaphysical level, or we can even use the physical boundaries of the brain, because it can be measured through electronic processes, electronic equipment. You have any thought, it will be reflected in the electronic screen. So you can use that as the ground. So that is all possible. That we are not going right now. In the very metaphor, because she is comparing the mind, because our topic here is the mind, and she has identified a metaphor. Like Ashadi identified a metaphor of droplets falling into whatever. Okay, that was very meaningful in the context of mind and its as a phenomenon, and to understand the original nature of the mind and things like that. There also we did not complete it. Our purpose is not to complete, just to make a beginning. So similarly, Veena is bringing in another metaphor here. You see, Ashadi could have brought here this also. Somebody else could bring this also as a metaphor for mind. I don't know. Actually, that Ashadi bringing in a drop of this thing into that surface was something very strange. But normally, this is a very easily acceptable metaphor. What? Flow of river. And same thing is actually speaking, Veena is, the statement is to be respected, because the entire Tao, which I told you, Tao means flow. And the Tao philosophy, they use the metaphor of water flow, that means river, only to talk about the original nature of the mind. So her metaphor is absolutely valid. But we are trying to see loopholes in that most valid statement. That means we are trying to find loopholes in the centralmost concept of Tao as a watercourse. Watercourse meaning just another term for river only. In fact, when Tao says it's a watercourse, actually they are trying to avoid what Vinay pointed out. They are trying to avoid the concept of ground there. When you talk about a river, inevitably there's a ground. But when you talk about water course, it is just that flowness of the contents of water. That's all. Whether it flows through a ground or flows through some mechanical architectural design, or what you call fountain, or whatever it is, the flowness of the water is the concept of Tao. So therefore, what Veena pointed out is a correct metaphor for the ongoing mind. Whereas what Ashadi mentioned is little bit accurate to the ongoing mind, but it is much more accurate to the original mind. Because in the ongoing mind, it is not just single water drops falling, which was the metaphor used by Ashadi. Okay? All right. So any other point, any other look for the metaphor of the water flow? Mind you, you should have your wide open attention. We are not just doing this for an act of interpretation alone. You have to continuously reflect upon this to see what all things are linked to what we are discussing now.
So river has a fixed flow, but mind is continuously in flow.
No, that you have not conceptualized it properly.
The river has a fixed point of flow, a fixed point of source.
No, don't change it. Fixed flow. And the mind has varied directions of flow. That's all.
Yeah,
all right.
continuously.
Not necessarily, in a way, continuously varying, of course. Yeah. But when you say that, Naveen,
Sir,
you are not actually pointing out a loophole in what Veena says. Yes. He says the flowing of a
Mind
river,
can
the
be
flowing of a
also
river can be in any direction also. But what you said, you have a point, of course. You, as you said, the river Ganga, its course is more or less fixed. Yeah. But the flow of mind could suddenly change its direction. That's what you say, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Good. Next point.
Sir,
mind can be sometimes still also, right? It need not be always flowing.
Wait. Once again, speak. Sorry, Parvati.
Mind sometimes can also be still. It need not be always in a state of flow. While a river
Not
is
only
also
river. I mean, Parvati, you use the evidence in the statement. She is not talking about a river. She is talking about the flowing of a river. Yeah, then only your logic becomes much more effective, Parvati. Parvati, do you get what I said?
not really.
Okay, then you say once again what you said. Then I will point out.
I said the river is always in a state of flow, unidirectionally though. Mind, as many of them pointed out, is not unidirectional flow, and at the same time, mind can also be still. It need not be always flowing.
Yeah, correct. Yes, correct. Agreed. Another point. That will lead to another important defect of the mind. Can you say, Parvati? The so-called mind of the human beings almost never flows in fact, Parvati. Because in a river flow, that flow is inevitably through new areas.
Yeah.
But mind very seldom, almost very rare that it goes into new areas. For a little baby from, let's say, 0.07 to about the age of 13, 14, 19, 20, 23 maximum. That's all. The real flow. After that, you may read another book, etc. That's not a real flow. Real evolution. As Prabhupada said, that is, in fact, most of the minds do not flow at all. A passing thought is not a comparison to the flow. Passing thought is just a thought about something is just changing in the mind. That's not flow. That's what you have to achieve. But that is possible. That is why the ancient rishis and all, they lived in a forest or in a wild area. Living in modern, constructed, regimented, streamlined, well-designed spaces, the mind is very much constrained. In a forest, the mind will be always in at least a minimum flow, because everything in the forest area or in the mountainous area, in the natural area, is unstable. You don't need to go to a forest, just a farmland. Just a farmland, just in front of the so-called my place here. At times it is fully green. That also from one day to the next day the height of the grass goes up and it comes to the full bloom. All the trees are very smart and very fresh and all that. Then the rain season goes away. All of them goes out and now it is almost barren and again it is in some other state. Or you read with reflection, reflective reading of wonderful ideas. That also, you finish a lot of books, then you will not find anything worthwhile reading. So then mind comes to a kind of a still position. So an advantage is still position of Parvati. Not necessarily what you call a muddy settlement of water.
Yes.
Something like you have reached the ocean. So that also is okay. Good point. Any other point? One more. Just one more. All right.
Master.
Yeah.
So in this picture, which Veena has used to represent the mind, the water is seen flowing through rocks and stones and other, overcoming the hurdles that are there in its way.
Okay.
But unlike this flowing river, I find the mind can be seriously blocked by beliefs and thoughts and opinions. Unlike a river which finds its course even over hurdles.
Yeah,
But I
okay.
don't think the mind is able to do that every time.
Exactly. Yeah. So-called mental block. Many other things can block the flow of mind. Exactly. Whereas a river would never be blocked. Even a dam cannot block the flow of the river. It will fill the dam and again overflow. Yes. Any other points? This is very important, especially water flow as a good metaphor for the mind. This is a required metaphor for the mind. A lot of people carry a lot of memories or instances of defeating disadvantages nature to their own problem as well as problems of interpersonal relationships. Mind gets attached to certain spaces and it just stops there. This is something which all of you know, and that's why we brought in the concept of the original love of the original mind. That original love will help you cut across all the blocks of the original flow of the mind. Your flow of the mind, whatever is available, will not be restricted by elements of memories of hatred or interpersonal conflicts or anything like that with people or with various knowledges or with various assumptions or with various theories. Yeah, anything else?
Sir, I would like to clarify one thing.
Yeah.
I think this point is already mentioned by Parvati ji. That is, here mind is comparing to the flowing of a river. Rather, it can be
It's
compared to just a river,
21:45.
because the river might not be always flowing. I don't know who said in the before some time, mind can also be still, and it can be in the form of in the mode of flowing also.
And that's what Parvati mentioned also.
Yeah. Yes.
So you mean to say that there's a difference between the use of river and the flowing of the river?
Yes.
But which one is advantageous, flowing of the river or river?
River is a bit more accurate.
Why?
Because as I said, river can be flowing and it cannot flow also. Means there might be some points are there, it might not flow also.
Okay, agreed.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But yeah. Okay, good. This is an example of referent reality based analytical process. Okay, that's all.
What was your point, sir? What was the loophole you thought?
These are the loopholes. What is people mention?
You said something about the source, sir.
Okay, you want to say something about the source?
No, when we started this, you said there is a problem with the word source in this context.
Yeah, that a problem in the sense that the source of the river you can more or less clearly identify, but the source of the mind, no, source of the mind. I look at it, source of the original mind itself. That's very complex. mind, Nitya, all the available contents, mindsets, etc., etc., etc. Okay, memories, whatever. All right, and they are all writings or impressions on the original mind, as in an infant, which is emptiness, empty slate. Okay, that empty process tendency. Okay, empty intentionality process. That's the original mind. Okay, that original mind from where it comes. That's what I mentioned. Get the point. Nitya, is it clear? That original emptiness, that original, if origin is empty mind, that empty mind originated from where?
Yeah.
That is what I mentioned. The source. Then if we turn to the neuronal processes, then we have to say, till from the point of the so-called mental phenomenon, it is very subtle, but if you use the physical plane which serves as the ground for the so-called mind, which are the neuronal processes, then we will have to say the neuronal processes are the source of the mind. Something like a Tintin pointed out, like ice, or from where the water formed. From where the water formed. So that's a bit of a question. We talk about hydrogen plus oxygen, etc., etc. Okay, water is in the ocean, but water is in the cloud, whatever. But from where the element, one of the Panchapudas called water, from where the so-called water itself originated. Get the point. That's what I said.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. That's all just good for meditating. That's all like a chord, like listening to the sound of one hand clapping. The entire perspectives on the world talks about the five elements, water, fire, etc., etc. But from where water originated, nobody can talk about that. Now, recently there was the invention of God particle. We reached to subatomic particles. But from where subatomic particles originated, no idea. That's where the Indian Upanishads have an answer. They say the Param Brahman is vacuum, emptiness, absolute emptiness. There's a concept called absolute emptiness, which is very difficult for us to conceive, even to imagine. An absolute nothingness. Then again we can ask, but when you understand absolute nothingness, actually you cannot ask a question from where absolute nothingness originated, actually. A corollary or a branch of that thought is the well-known thought that the world is a maya, world is an illusion. Because you see, like someone mentioned that to Sashwati, that's organ, sense organ, sensing. Sense that creates the mind, or creates a meaningful perception of the world. That itself is a great problem meaning philosophic problem. You do not see a separate visual world. Or a world separated in visual data from auditory data to touch data to, you see a unified, sensible, operatable world there without a gap. Where is this combining happens? There is the visual data, there is the auditory data, always. Even when there is absolute silence, there is a data, that silence of the sound is there. So these are all ultimate philosophical questions. You can reflect upon it once in a while. According to me, that will give you a little bit of good exercise for the engines of your attention and your conceptualization process. Okay. At the given human level of minor transient existence of us, our purpose is amply fulfilled By the time you are able to locate to that original emptiness of the hub that you is, that's enough. That moment, the one single moment of satori is enough. Anyway, I don't know whether you can try for more. Whatever I am doing is just because of that only. And after that, I was so convinced to myself that I don't want to know anything more. I am very clear. I may not know many things, I don't know, but I am absolutely clear about me, and I can explain, interpret whatever that comes in the path of my life. All the result of 2-3 seconds of something. That's all. All right. Yeah, Veena has some point. At the source or origin, the water is crystal clear, then as it flows down, it becomes slightly muddy. Then muddier and viscous. So various terrains, it becomes slowly and then at times slowly and then finally conducted. All right. This is a description of the real mind, of course. This is also very good. Everyone should have a clear picture of the history of the mind. That will give them a wider perspective. Clarity about this sentence alone will make people a little more gentle, little more egoless, little more unselfish, little more ethical. Otherwise, everybody is blocked, like Vinay pointed out or Parvati pointed out. Everybody is in a small gutter of a given point of river. That's all. The river of the house, related aspects, some few friends, some work-related things, some locations, finished. That's all. Every time, it should be a fundamental program of the mind to be aware that this is after all began some 30 years back or 40 years back or 50 years back, and it has collected already a lot of things, okay, and it is going towards that. Just to have a moment of reflection. Right now, sit there and have a moment of reflection of the history of your mind from its beginning of infancy till now, and its possible next future. Come on, do it right away. 3 minutes.